There's a story told that there were three countries: the United States of America, United Kingdom, England, and Italy. And one time, the Rebbe called the three heads of these states, the Prime Minister or the President, and he said that he would like to have a meeting with them. So of course, they all three went up to have a meeting with God. The country heard that their president, their prime minister went up to God, and everybody's standing and waiting to see what is going to happen when they come back. What's the message from God? So finally they come down. The one from the United States, and they're sitting there at this meeting with God, and God says, listen guys, you better start shaping up. Because if within the next month you're not going to shape up, I'm going to take everybody and put them where they belong, as we say in Italian, a spalare il carbone, to shovel coals up there. Okay, so they come down here. The one from the United States tells all the people, everybody's standing there waiting to see what he's going to say. And he says, no, it was a private message. It doesn't concern all the people. God wanted you to know how important I am, that he calls me to one of his meetings. Then the one from the United Kingdom, he comes to his people and he says, guys, God wants us to shape up, because things are not going the way they properly should be going. The Italian one comes, and all the Italians, they want to know, so what did God say? He says, God told me, I hear that your people are constantly complaining to you that your unemployment rate is so high. Within 1 month, everybody's going to be employed. Nothing to worry about. This was his message of what the Rebbe said. He was trying to be very optimistic about the situation. Why are we saying this? Because Italy, which, as you heard of it in the previous shiurim, I'm very proud of being a proud Italian. My parents were sent on shlichus over 50 years ago, to Italy. Italy has contributed a lot to the concept of Yiddishkeit. Unfortunately, on both sides, on the negative and the positive. On the negative, because this Golus today is called the Golus of Esav. The Golus of Edom, which, as we're going to learn in next week's parsha, in Parshas Toldus, the Edom is Esav, Rome, the fourth and the last Golus. What is going to happen before Mashiach comes, as the pasuk says, "Ve'olu Meshim b'Artzion lishpeit esar Esav." Then ve'hoisel Hashem amlucha. Then God is going to be the king of the world. That we have to transform Esav. We have to take what Esav teaches and transform it to the correct. We are now within 30 days from the Yom Tov of Chanukah, from the holiday of Chanukah. There's a halach in Shulchan Aruch that 30 days before Yom Tov, you have to start learning the halachas of the upcoming Yom Tov, the upcoming holiday. Now, these halachas are regarding Shavuos, Sukkot, Pesach. There is no such halacha regarding Chanukah. But, being that normally we do prepare ourselves before that, a Yom Tov, it would be proper that we start discussing the things that we do already to prepare for Chanukah, to do it in the correct way. And therefore, I would like to discuss something that Italy has contributed to the concept, but unfortunately the message is not correct. And what we're going to be discussing is the concept of the Menorah, the correct version of the Menorah. Why does the Menorah look the way it does? We all know that when we go to Italy, the Menorah in the Shar Titus, in the Arch of Tito, is round. In the last few decades, the Rebbe had requested, based on the Rambam, that the Menorah be with straight branches, etc. So this is what we are going to be discussing today, how this exactly works. We're going to go back to the sources and see what is the correct way, and then we will move over into Chanukah and see how this comes into the Chanukiyah and what is the correct way that a Chanukiyah should look like. So, and another very interesting point, that not too long ago we had a very, very interesting event. When I'm saying we, it means our family and friends in Italy, marking the 50 years of Lubavitch in Italy, etc. and my parents being sent to Arch Slichus, we went actually to the Shar Titus, to the Arch of Tito, and we had a very interesting event. If we will have the time later, we will maybe even show maybe a little bit of footage, if we'll be able to arrange that. And as you will see also in your curriculum, 1 or 2 vignettes from that event, which is a very, very interesting fact, which we will discuss later at the end of this year. But let's now go into the sources of this whole story of the Menorah. How really exactly did the Menorah look? So go to your curriculum, and as you can see on the right-hand side, you have a copy, a photostat of the actual holy handwriting of the Rambam. The Rambam wrote several books. One book is called the Yad HaChazaka, the Halachas, in the 14 books, where he describes all the halachas of the Torah, all the laws in Torah. And he also wrote a Pirush HaMishnayos, a explanation to the Mishnah. This picture is taken from the Pirush HaMishnayos that came out only a few decades ago. There's a Rav, his name is Rav Kapach, he brought it from Taimon from Yemen, and this is an original manuscript of the Rambam, as you can see here in the picture. So there are 2 basic points that we will be discussing today. One is the fact that, as you can see, the branches are straight, which is something that throughout history we hardly ever saw. Most menorahs, even by the big tzaddikim, they were round branches. And the second point is, if you look closely, you will see that there are these triangles here in this menorah, and these triangles are cups. When the Rebbe told Moshe Rabbeinu, as we're going to be learning in the curriculum, to build a menorah, on each branch had to be 3 cups. And when we look at the cups, the way that Rambam made them, he made them upside down. So we are going to be discussing this concept also. So let's go now to the source. If you look at source number 1, this is a pasuk in Parshas Truma. In Parshas Truma, Perek Kafei, pasuk Lamed Aleph, when the Rebbe tells Moshe Rabbeinu that he wants him, together with the Yidden, to build a sanctuary, a Mishkan, and he discussed with him all types of furniture that has to be in the Mishkan. One of them, of course, is the Menorah. So God says as follows, source number 1, Truma, Ve'asisa menorahs zahav tahir. You should make a Menorah of pure gold. And the Torah goes through a whole bunch of details, and finally Hashem says, Shloisha gevi'im, there should be 3 cups, mishukadim, decorated, bekane ha'echad. Each one of the branches should have 3 cups in its branch. Besides for the 3 cups, on top of it should be kaftoir, a button, vaferach, and a flower. And then the next branch also, ushloisha gviim, 3 cups, mishukadim, decorated, bekane ha'echad, in one branch, kafter vaferach, and a button and a flower. So there are 6 branches. That's each one should have 3 cups, a button and a flower. Then uvamenorah, the center one, arba gviim mishukadim, it'll have 4 cups, 3 on top, like everybody else, like the other branches, and then on the bottom, closer to the feet of the menorah, there should be another extra cup, which makes it obviously a total of 22 cups. 7 times 3 is 21, plus the one on the bottom, which makes it 22. This is the pasuk in Parshat Truma. Go to source number 2. That's the Gemara in Menachem, Nachav Ches Amud Beis. The Gemara says as follows: Ugevi'in, and the cups which were in the Menorah, lemahen daimin. What do they look like? Were they regular cups? Says the Gemara, no. Kemin koises Alexandrium, like the cups that come from a city which is called Alexandria in Egypt. Well, how do the cups of Egypt look like? Most people have not been to Egypt. So we're going to have someone who did live in Egypt, and he's going to tell us what it is. Who is that? Of course, the Rambam. Look in your source number 3. The Rambam says, in Hilchas Beis Abchira, Peri Gimel Halacha Tes, in the laws of building the Beis HaMikdash, the Rambam says as follows in the 3rd chapter: Hagviim doimim lekaises Alexandria. The cups, which are supposed to be in the Menorah, they resemble the same cups as the ones they use in Alexandria. What does that mean? Shepihen rachav, their opening on top is wide, vishulayim katzer, and the bottom is very thin, sort of like these cups here. You see the top is much wider than the bottom, and it goes down to a tip. Obviously it was without a bottom like this one, because otherwise it'll fall. But in the Menorah, this is exactly how it was. Thick, wide on the top and thin on the bottom. This is what the Rambam says very briefly in the halacha, in the law. Source number 4 is what the Rambam explains on the Mishnah. In the Mishnah in Menachos, which is that same Menachos that we had in source number 2. So the Rambam explains as follows. Look in source number 4, in Pirush HaMishnayos La Rambam, in Menachos Peri Gimel Mishnah Zayin, says the Rambam as follows. I feel it important to actually draw a picture of the Menorah exactly how it was. Not exactly, but in a complete. Before I making the picture, I would like to make it very clear that we have received, by Kabbalah, we have received that the height of the Menorah was 18 tfachim. Plus there was a few other things, then kaftayrim, prachim, there were buttons and flowers. I'm not bringing everything that Rambam says here, I'm just bringing what has to do with our case. Vehagovia, and the cup, hu ketavnis kois otum, is like a cup which is closed, full. Ela shehashulayim shaloitzarim, the bottom is very thin. Then the Rambam continues, and I'm going to make a drawing of these cups, hagvim tavnis mishulash, that they were like a triangle. Vehakaftoirim, the buttons, ogul, they were round. Vehaperach, the flower, chatzi ogul, was a half a circle. Why am I doing this? This is just so we could make this clearer in the picture. Since the ultimate goal, purpose of this picture is not not that you know exactly what it looks like. Why? Because I already explained that they look like a triangle. Right? So why did he make the picture? Explains the Rambam. What's the reason? Because I want you to know where in the Menorah exactly are these 3 cups, to the top, to the bottom, in the middle, etc. And this way you get a very general picture of what the Menorah looked like. This is what the Rambam says here in our Pirush HaMishnayos. So, when we look at the picture, there's a very, very obvious question. And the question is, why did the Rambam make when he was drawing the picture, he made the cups upside down? It makes absolutely no sense. And as we're going to see, that Rav Karpach, who actually gave out this Pirush HaMishnayos, asks this question. Give a look at your source number 5. Pirush Rav Karpach, he says, Zehu tzilu miksav yad Rabbeinu. This is an actual drawing of from a handwriting of the Rambam. In other words, this is what is printed is actually a photostat of the actual picture that the Rambam drew. And then he says, "V'kachu kimat b'diuk b'ksav yad pei." The Rav Karpach, when he prepared this Pirush HaMishnayos, although he had the original of the Rambam, but he also had another few manuscripts, and he says that the other ones also have it approximately the same way, like the Rambam, this way. Says Rav Karpach, "V'tomuahu tziyur zeh." This drawing is very strange. Shekol hagvim hafuchim, all the cups are upside down. Rechavim milamata, v'tzarim milamayla. They are wide on the bottom, and they come to a point on the top. Heipech mashikazuv kan, the opposite of what he himself wrote, what the Rambam wrote, that vehagiviyah, he quotes the Rambam here, vehagiviyah hu ketavnis kois otum, that the cup is like a cup which is closed on the top, elo shashulayim shaloitzarim, that the bottom is small. So he calls it the bottom. So why in the picture does he put the bottom on top? He should have said that the top is small and the bottom is wide. Ubi Menachas Daf Chav Ches Beis Isa, and the Gemara Menachas and Daf Chav Ches says, as we had it in our source number 2, what does the Gemara say over there? Ugivim lemahin daimim kemin kaises Alexandrim. What do the cups of the Menorah look like? Like the cups of Alexandria. And ubehilchas beisapchira perigim halachates. And in Hilchas beisapchira, the Rambam writes that we had just learned now in our source number 3. What did the Rambam write over there? That hagvin daimim lekaises Alexandria. That the cups look like the cups that we use in Alexandria. Shepihen rachav v'shulein katzer. That the top is wide and their opening is wide and the bottom is thin. So why did the Rambam make these cups upside down? And look what he says. L'chein nirali. Therefore I think kitzura sagvim shebetzir, that the way the Rambam drew these cups, shgogo sheyotza milifnei hashalit. This is a very diplomatic, very honorable expression when you want to say that someone very great seems like he erred in this, he made a mistake in this concept. So he says it seems like that there was a shgoga here, there was some mistake here. We have to turn over all the cups, that they should be wide on top and thin on the bottom. And not only this, but there's another few wishes that he brings in the place where the cups were, etc. And therefore, on the next page in the Pirush HaMishnayos, the Rabbi Kapach made another, he himself made a picture and he put all the cups, regular, etc. And then he continues, when the Rambam, when he made his drawing, he wasn't meticulous about it. As he says at the end, as we just read in source number 4 towards the end, that what was the purpose why he made this drawing, the Rambam? Just to give a very general idea, but he didn't do it exactly. Says that that's why I redrew the whole thing, and obviously you don't need to see a picture of it. Basically, he took all the cups and he put them up regular, and also he put them in a different place on the branch, not exactly how the Rambam has it, etc. And a lot of people also say that they just couldn't understand why would the Rambam turn that over. So the Rebbe asks on this a few questions. Number one, whoever learns Rambam, and people have been learning Rambam for hundreds of years, we know that the greatest geniuses pull out the deepest halachas from an extra letter in the Rambam, or the way the Rambam expresses himself, or the way he breaks up the halachas, because the Rambam was unbelievably careful with every single detail. So the question is, it's true that Rambam writes that it didn't make the picture exactly. But first of all, to make a cup upside down, even a little child doesn't do that. You have to do that on purpose. Second of all, if there was only one cup here, and you want to say that he made a mistake, it's one thing. He did it with 22 cups. You want to tell me that 22 times the Rambam wasn't careful with what he's doing? It can't be. It just doesn't hold it. It doesn't hold water. And therefore, there must be a reason why the Rambam did it this way. And as we're going to see soon. But let's see, there's another few Mefarshim, commentaries, who also explained that the cups were in the regular position, and you will see why. Look at source number 6, the Cheskuni. The Cheskuni is one of the big Mefarshim on the Torah. He was in France in between 12 and 1300, about 700-800 years ago. And he says as follows, look at source number 6, on the pasuk of the Gvi'eha, the cups of the Menorah in Parshat Truma. He says, Heim kvuim kulam svivei sakana. All the cups are surrounding the stick, the branch. Ukeshashemen mismatze, when the oil falls down from the shem, sometimes when you put in oil in a certain vessel, then sometimes you do put in a little too much and it with overflows. So he says, Yored el hasheni. So then it'll go to so there's the next cup. Umin hasheni el hashlishi, from the second to the third. Umin hashlishi le'oisa shebiyerech ha-menorah. And from the third, it'll go to the one which is all the way on the bottom of the Menorah. Shekula mismatzin l'seicha, because then eventually everybody ends up over there. So there's a certain purpose to these cups. In other words, the cups are there to receive. So we see clearly that it seems like that the cup were in the regular position, and the Rambam still made it upside down. Or when we look in the source number 7, Rabbi Yosef, he was also approximately at that time also one of the big Rabbanim in France, and he also wrote a Pirush on the Torah, and he says almost the same words as the Cheskuni. What does he say? Look at source number 7. Vagvim nesunim kol svivei sakane kemim beisyad. The cups were around the branch like a glove around it, and the branch went inside. Ukeshehaneir mismal yeser midai. What happens when the top one, the neir, the part that has the wick in it, becomes too full? Yored hashemen ala gavia rishon. The oil will drip into the first cup. When the first one will get full, Yored el hasheni, it'll go to the next one. Umin hasheni el hashlishi, from the second to the third. Umin hashlishi el harevi, from the third to the fourth. Shebiyerech ha-menorah, which is on the bottom. Shekulam mismatzin l'seicha, that they all come, eventually end up on the bottom one. So we see here clearly that there's basically two schools of thought here. Everybody is of the opinion, seems to be, that the cups were there to take the oil. Comes the Rambam and says, no, the cups were upside down. They weren't there to take in anything. And the question is, why? Where did the Rambam take this from? So, of course, either the Rambam received it by Kabbalah, from a teacher, went from teacher to teacher to teacher till Moshe Rabbeinu, or he had a medrash or a Gemara that eventually did not come to us. But the fact that he didn't bring it in his Sefer HaRambam, because in Sefer HaRambam, for whatever reason, he decided only to bring it in Pirush HaMishnayos. But the mere fact that he made them upside down, definitely he had a very, very strong message here. And the question of the Rambam becomes even stronger. Let's look at source number 8. There's a Gemara. The Gemara says in Sukkah, in Perek Mem Heis, Daf Mem Hei Amud Beis, page 45, the Gemara says as follows: Omar Cheskiyah Omar Rabbi Yirmiyah Mishum Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Cheskiyah said in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah, in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. A very general rule by all mitzvahs. Kol ha-mitzvahs kulan, all the mitzvahs, ein adam yoytze bohen elo derech dilasan. A person, if he wants to do a mitzvah, he has to use it the way it grows. What does that mean? As we're going to see in a few minutes, Shenemar atzei shitim oimdim. We see when Hashem said to build the Mishkan, the sanctuary, he said that he wants atzei shitim, he wants the wood should be oimdim, they should be standing. What does it mean they should be standing? Says the Gemara, Tanya nami hachi, atzei shitim oimdim. We learned that the beams have to be standing, she oimdim derech gdilasan, that they stand the way they grew. Okay, explains Rashi, what does that mean? Look at source number 9. Rashi Kol HaMitzvahs, says Rashi, Kegoin Karshe HaMishkan, like the beams of the Mishkan, Ve'amudim, and the pillars, Ve'lulav, Ve'hodos, Ve'arava. A lulav and a hodos and arava that we use on sukkahs, we all have to use them. How? Derech gdilasan, the way they grow. Continues Rashi, what does that mean? Ha'tachten le'mata ve'ha'elnyan le'mayla. When a lulav grows, the bottom part of the lulav is the closed part. The top one is which has all the branches. So when we make the bracha on the lulav, this is the way we have to hold it. And the same thing, the aravis and adasim, they all have to be the way they grow. I'm not going to go now into the esrog. It's another whole story about the esrog. But the bottom line is, the Gemara says very clearly, if it's something that grows, should be kederach dilasan. And it says, kol ha-mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs have to be upright. So, and the Menorah, of course, also has to be upright. Comes the Rambam, and within the Menorah, though, he takes the cups and he makes them upside down. Why? Normally things should be upright. So therefore, there must be an unbelievable, beautiful message here from the upside down cups. And we're going to make this very briefly. And the Rebbe explains it as follows. This is all taken from Likutei Sichos, volume 21, in the Parsha of Truma. And the Rebbe explains it as follows. He brings a Gemara, which is explains it beautifully. Look, and we're going to analyze now the whole concept of the Menorah. What is this whole Menorah? What is the purpose of the Menorah? What did Rebbe want when he said the Menorah? Look at source number 10. This is a Gemara Menachas Daf Pei Vav Amid Beis. Says the Gemara that it says in a pasuk in Parshas Emor, the Rebbe tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Tzav es b'nei Yisrael, command the Jews, v'yikhu eilecha shemen zayizach. They should take for you, v'yikhu eilecha, for you, shemen zayizach, oil which is very pure, clear, nice, crystal clear. Amar Rab Shmuel bar Nachmani, says Rab Shmuel bar Nachmani. The Rebbe says to Moshe, v'yikhu eilecha, they should take for you. Says Rab Shmuel bar Nachmani, eilecha, for you, for Moshe Rabbeinu, v'loili, not for me. The Rebbe says, loy lo eir ani tzarich, I don't need any light. If you need light, it's for the Jews, not for me. Okay, then the Gemara continues over there. Shulchan betzafen u'menorah bedarim. In the Mishkan, in the Beis HaMikdash, when you walked into the chamber, into the Kodesh, on the south side you had the Shulchan betzafen. The Shulchan was on the north side, and the Menorah bedarim. The Menorah was on the south side. Amar Rab Zrika, Amar Rab Elazar. Rab Zrika, Rab Elazar says, Lo la'achil ani tzarich. The table over there with the chalas, I don't need it. It's not for me because I don't have to eat. And I don't need the light. Normally, if a person has a table and light, because you'll be able to see what's happening. So the light is either on the table, the candles are on the table, or right next to it. In the Beis HaMikdash, it's not so. In the Beis HaMikdash, they were far apart because God says, I don't need the light. The Gemara continues. It brings a pasuk in Melachim where it talks about how Shlomo HaMelech built the Beis HaMikdash. The pasuk says as follows. That he made for the house, for the Beis HaMikdash, windows. And the windows were shkufim atumim. What is shkufim atumim? Explains the Gemara. Tana, shkufim mibifnim ve'atumim mibachutz. They were smaller on the inside and wider on the outside. As we will see soon in source 11, that Rashi explains that a normal window is smaller on the outside and wider on the inside, so the light that comes in spreads into the room. By the Beis HaMikdash, it was the opposite. It was small on the inside and wide on the outside, so the light from the Beis HaMikdash goes to the outside. But let's continue the Gemara over here. Tana, the second line. Tana, the fourth line in source number 10. Tana, shkufim mifnim vatum bachutz, loyla oira nitzarich. God says the reason why the light goes out because God doesn't need it. It's the world that needs it. Another pasuk brings the Gemara. Michutz lepareiches ha'edus be'oyel moed. Where should the Menorah be? On the outside of the curtain that divides between the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the holiest of holy, and the regular holy. But over here it's called pareiches ha'edus, of witness, of testimony. What kind of testimony is this? Says the Gemara, Eidus hu lechol boy elam. This is a testimony, a witness for the whole world. This is an indication to the whole world. Shehashchina sheira b'Yisrael. Where does the Shechina of the Eibishter rest? By the Yidden, by the Jews. If you want to say that maybe God needs the light, how could you say God needs the light? The Yidden went into the desert for 40 years. How did they go? God gave them the light. Not that we gave God light. God gave to the Yidden the light. So why would I even think that God needs this light? Therefore says the Gemara, the Menorah is a indication to the world. Where is God? By the Yidden. That is the whole purpose of the Menorah. The light of the Menorah shines to the world and says one thing. You want to know where God is? By the Jews in the Beis HaMikdash. That's what the Menorah does. And the Gemara continues. My Edusa. What is the witness? Where do we see this in the Menorah? This goes on the Neir HaMaravi, the candle, the light that was towards west. That they gave in oil into it just like all the other ones. He used to start from it and finish from it. This last piece, basically, what happens is every night they used to relight the Menorah. The next day, the Kohen Gadol used to come to clean it and prepare it. So there's a lot of opinions here exactly what happened, but in general, one of them, we're going to take one of the opinions, that one of them remained lit, although all the other ones already burnt out. This one remained lit until after all the other ones are clean, etc., and then you would light all the other ones from this one. This is very general, but as a matter of fact, it's a very long concept. What exactly is this Neir Ma'aravi, that from it they lit the other candles, and how exactly it worked? There's actually an essay from the Rebbe, which is called Reshimas HaMenorah, where the Rebbe, at the request of his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, wrote this essay, and his father-in-law asked him that he should write it according to the Rambam, according to Halacha, according to Drush, according to Sod, according to Chassidus, and it's over 150 pages. It is amazing how the Rebbe takes all the opinions here on this Neir Ma'aravi. Which one is it exactly? Is it the second one from Mizrach? Is it the one closest to Ma'ariv? Is it the one in the middle? Why do we call it Neir Ma'aravi, etc.? But that's another whole issue for itself. But what's the bottom line here? That what is the idea of the Menorah? The message of the Menorah? A light unto the world. Telling the world what? Where is God? In the Beis HaMikdash, by the Yidden. That is the concept of the Menorah. And that's why you see in source number 11, Rashi says, what does it mean what we just said? That the chaloinos are shkufim atumim, that the windows were small on the inside and wide on the outside. Says Rashi, shkufim mibifnim, they were smaller on the inside. Shamashkoifin shel chaloinos hainu tzor shebachaloin hayu mibifnim. The small part, the part which is the frame of the window, which was smaller, is on the inside. And the wider part of the window, it is towards the outside to send that light out to the world. Oh, says the Rebbe, if that is the message of the Menorah, in the Menorah itself, we have that message. Where do we have that? We have that in the cups. What is the reason why Hashem said to make cups? When we look in the Mefarshim, we find so many interesting remozim and hints. Why 7 branches? Why 22 cups? Why a certain amount of buttons? And why cups? Why buttons? Why flowers, etc.? So we're just going to take now the cups. Look at your source number 12. The Rabbeinu Bachye also was between the 12th and the 1300s in Spain. Also wrote an unbelievable sefer on the Chumash. And he says as follows. First he explains that the reason why we have 7 branches in the Menorah, they represent the Shiva Keich Veleches. They represent, according to Torah, the universe. The way it works is, I'm not going to go now through all the details here, but there are 2 schools of thought. One is that the universe is heliocentric. Helio in Latin means the sun. I think we discussed this more than once, that the sun is in the center and everything goes around the sun. And the Torah way is geocentric, that the planet Earth is in the center and everything goes around. And the Rambam explains it in his Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh. It's a very interesting, fascinating subject. But the bottom line is, according to Torah, we have the planet Earth in the center. We have 7 koich veleches, 7 main, we're going to call them stars, that move around, which are really the planets. And sun happens to be the 4th. And so there are 7 of these, and then above there's the 8th that has all the other stars. But the first 7 are the main ones, which have the 7 koich veleches. So therefore, says the Bachye, that is the reason why we have 7 branches, and therefore the middle one, the 4th, is the Chama, the sun, and that's why that's the one that gives the most light, etc., etc. But then he discusses the cups. What does he say about the cups? He says, Hagiviyah. What is the cup? Hu keili sheyesh le beis kibul. It is something that contains. Vehu mashke umerave. And he quenches the thirst. He gives to the one who wants to drink. That's the whole concept of the cups in the Menorah. Keneged olam hagalgalim. This is just like the world of the galgalim, of these spheres. Shehem mekablim koiches olyonim. What happens? They receive the powers from above. Umashpim koyach ba'olam hashafal, and they in turn give it over to the olam hashafal. So just like a cup takes in the liquid, and then the person who wants to drink drinks it. So then he It gets turned over. Says the Bachye, Rabbeinu Bachye, that this is the purpose of the Gevim, because just like the Galgalim, they receive and give, so too, this is what the cup does. And then we have another very interesting one in source number 13, the Recanati. Recanati was also a very, very big Italian Mekubal, and he also wrote a lot on the Torah. So he writes as follows, look at source number 13. First he says that the reason why we have 22 cups, that is keneged the 22 letters of the alphabet, of the Aleph base that we have in the Torah, the Chav Beis Eisias HaTorah. And when we read what they write, it's really amazing. But then he also continues approximately in the same venue as the Rabbeinu Bachye, and he says, "V'tziva la'asoisam betzuras govia." Why did the Rebbe say to make the cups like a goblet, like a govia? Ki heim mekablim v'shoyavin mimakar ha'elyon. They receive from the upper sources. Lehashpia l'asher tachtom. So they should in turn be able to give it over to those who are lower than them. And it's interesting how he says the reason why there are 3 cups, because it's just like the hadassim, which are near the lulav, and the button and the flower represent the esrog, and it's a very interesting how he continues there. But the bottom line is that what do they say? That the purpose that Hashem said to put cups, because they represent those that receive and give. This is the concept of the gavia. If that's the case, we're going to see something very, very interesting. What is a cup? What is a cup? There's a fundamental difference between a cup, a goblet, which is basically the same idea, a govia and a kos, and a barrel. A barrel is there to store the liquid as long as possible. So the main thing is the liquid goes in, it stays there. After a long time, we're going to take it out. So the purpose of the barrel is to contain. The purpose of the cup is to drink. When we have a cup on the table, right now it's empty because it doesn't serve any purpose. When a person sits down and wants to drink, then we pour in something from a bottle, from a barrel, from a bigger object, and then when the person takes it and he drinks it, when it's upside down, that is when the cup is fulfilling his mission. As we see in the Torah, look at source number 14. Source number 14 is a story in Parsha Miketz with Yosef and his brothers, the famous story of Yosef and his brothers. What happened over there? That when the brothers came and they had to go back home, and Yosef played the famous trick on them, what does it say? Let's look in source number 14. Yosef commanded the one who takes care of his house, his manager. He told them as follows: fill up their knapsacks of the brothers when they're going back to Yaakov, fill them up with food. And my goblet, my cup, the silver one, you should put inside of the little one of Binyamin, and then you'll run after them and you'll catch them, you'll turn them into thieves, as the famous story of Yosef and the brothers. When the guy ran after them, and he caught them, and they found the cup, what did he say? This is what my master drinks from. In other words, the whole issue of this goblet is that he drinks from it. Not that he just looks at it and the purpose is drinking. When you drink it, what happens? It turned over. It's upside down. That's why the Rebbe said, and that's why the Rambam made the picture of the cups upside down, because the cups are the point in the Menorah that represent the whole concept of the Menorah. What is the Menorah? To send out light to the whole world. That's why the cups are upside down, to show the concept of giving rather the concept of containing in itself. And it's very, very interesting. I remember once one of the most interesting chassidim of our generation, he passed away already a while back, but he was alive like anything, and one of the biggest askonim, one of the biggest I don't even know how to describe him, because he was everything possible that a person could humanly do, and his name was Rabbi J.J. Hecht. Very good friend, although he was much older than me. He treated me like a friend, and he taught me a lot of things, and we were very, very close. He headed the NCFJE and many other things. He was the Rebbe's translator. And one time I remember he came to the Fabrengen, and the Rebbe spotted him, and there were many times that the Rebbe would spot somebody by the Fabrengen and point and say, with his hand, that you should say L'chaim. So I took a little cup, and JJ said L'chaim. Then the Rebbe looked at him, he laughed, he smiled, and the Rebbe's famous motion took his two hands, one on top, one on bottom, and a nice big space between the two hands, which means, no, I want you to take a big cup. So, of course, he got a big cup, filled it up with wine, and he started drinking L'chaim. And, of course, he didn't finish the whole cup till the end. The Rebbe was looking. Then the Rebbe said these words. The Rebbe said, bottoms up. This was the expression. Bottoms up. We have to constantly give. And it was unbelievably apropos. And as a matter of fact, in the year Tafshim Memvav, in 1986, and Simchas Torah, actually it was 1985, because it's in the end of the year, it's in the beginning of the Jewish year of Tafshim Memvav, but then it was 1985, in the middle of the Fabrengen of Simchas Torah. At one point, the Rebbe started discussing the concept of cups and the concept of giving, and then they started a song, and in the middle of the song, the Rebbe took his cup, finished it, and then he turned it over and he held it upside down like this, and he was making with his hand, like he usually used to do by Fabrengen, and he told everybody to do the same thing with their cups, and the Rebbe explained the concept of giving, because when you hold the cup like this, it's not doing its function. When it's turned over all the way upside down, that is when the cup is giving. And there's a very interesting explanation here from the Rebbe, according to Kabbalah. What is this whole concept of the cup, and why is there a Gavia here? We don't have enough time to discuss it, but over there in this Sicha, in Likutei Sichos, in the footnote number 24, the Rebbe explains that the cup represents the concept of Malchus. Malchus is the last one of the attributes of all the divine attributes of the Eibishter. The last one, the 10th one, is Malchus, and Malchus has two functions: to accept, to receive from all the above, and then to give it over to the world. That is the concept of Malchus. That is why, al pi Kabbalah, Malchus is considered a kus. So at least now we understand beautifully the first subject, and that is, why are the cups upside down? Because the cups actually represent what the Menorah represents. Give it out to the world. I once heard from a very, very smart chassid. He said, we see that there's one mivtzah, one campaign, that the Rebbe said that we have to do on the outside, spread the world with it. All the mitzvahs, yeah, we stop people in the street to do a mitzvah, but we do it inside, we could do it outside. There's one thing that the Rebbe asked that should be done outside, publicly, in every single square of the world. What is that? The mitzvah of Chanukah. Why? Why Chanukah? Now we understand it. Because the whole idea of Chanukah is, the whole idea of the Menorah is, to show the world, where is the Eibishter? The Eibishter is Shchinas B'Yisrael. That is where it is, and we have to be proud of that, because now we're hitting the time of V'hoisa LaHashem Hamlucha. As we said before, that the whole world will be filled with the knowledge of the Eibishter, and the Eibishter is the ruler of the whole world. So now we understand the first subject of why we have the cups upside down. Now let's go very briefly on the branches. Why did the Rambam make the branches different than everybody else? Everybody has them round, and the Rambam made them straight. We're now going to be discussing why he made it that way, but one thing is sure, that he made it that way, so that is the way it should be. Let's go to source number, first of all, in the beginning, right before source number 1, as you can see, on the right side you have a picture of the Menorah of the Rambam, and on the left side you have a picture of the way it is now in Chaya Hazan, in the Arch of Tito. And it's very obvious that the one from the Rambam has straight branches, and the one in Chaya Hazan has them round. So let's go to source number 16, the Pirush of Rabbeinu Avram ben Rambam ala Torah. The son of the Rambam writes in his explanation to the Torah, Veshisha kanim, and 6 branches, says the Rebbe Avram ben Rambam, Hakanim, these branches, K'mei Anofim, they are like branches, Nimshachim migufa shel Menorah, they go from the center of the Menorah, they extend from the center of the Menorah, Letzad Roisha b'yosher, to the top of the Menorah, straight, K'mei Shetzir Oisa Abi Moirizal, as my father made it, drew them in his picture. Loi be'igul, not round, like the other ones made the picture. So the son of the Rambam makes it very clear that not only is there a picture how the Rambam did it, that the Rambam made the branches straight. The Rambam is not the only one that says it. Look at source number 17. Rashi. What does Rashi say here on our pasuk here in Parshat Truma? Yoitzi mitzideha, that the branches go out from the center of the Menorah to its side. Says the Rambam, says Rashi, lekanu lekan, on both sides they go up. Be'alachson, diagonally. Nimshachim ve'oilim, they extend and go up. Ad keneged goifa shel Menorah shukanehem tzai, till the height of the Menorah, which is, when we say the word Menorah over here, we're referring to the middle stem. So we see that both Rashi and the Rambam both say that the branches were straight. When we look in the Rambam in Hilchos Beis HaBchira, what does the Rambam say? The Rambam in Hilchos Beis HaBchira in Perek Gimel, look in your source number 18. Ushnei kanim yetzi mimenu, two branches go out on the side. Echad heilech ve'echad heilech, each one on each side. Ve'nimshachim ve'oilim keneged goiv ha'menorah, and they all go up till the top of the Menorah. This is the first two. Then the Rambam says again, Ushnei kanim yetzi mimenu, another two go out from the center. Echad heilech ve'echad heilech, one on this side, one on that side. Ve'nimshachim ve'oilim keneged goiv ha'menorah, and they extend and go up until the top of the Menorah. Ushnei kanim yetzi mimenu, and then there's another two that go out from the sides. Echad heilech ve'echad heilech, ve'nimshachim ve'oilim keneged goiv ha'menorah, and they go up until the top. Now let's see how the Mefarshim looked at these words from the Rambam. Look at your source number 19. There's a Sefer Maaseh Choshev from the famous Baal Mishnas Chassidim, also another proud Italian. His name was Rebbe Emanuel Chayderiki. He was from Livorno and Venezia, different places, and then he went to Israel to learn Kabbalah, and then he came back. He had a very, very, very hard life because, unfortunately, in one of his trips, the pirates captured them and then they sold them as slaves, and then the Jews were able to take them back. It was a whole thing, and then finally on his next trip, when he was collecting money for Eretz Yisrael for certain things, that he got killed. He was killed at Kiddush Hashem, and he actually is buried near the city of Bologna, in a small city called Cento. And as a matter of fact, the Lubavitch Shluchim go to his, it was just revealed not too long ago exactly where he was, etc. And the Lubavitch Shluchim of the area go on his yahrzeit to his tombstone of the Mishnas Chassidim. It was a very big mekubal. So what does he say on source number 19? Ushnei kanim yetzi mimenu, two sticks, they go, two branches, they go, sticks, they go out from the side. Echad heilech ve'echad heilech, just like the Rambam says, ve'nimshachin, and they extend be'igul, in a circle, ve'oilin keneged gover shel Menorah. He adds the words in a circle that they go up to the top. Now, the Mishnah Chassidim on the side, he has a pirush, he has an explanation. Be'igul, he says that went round. Says the Mishnah Chassidim, Teivazul and Yizkra b'memra. This word be'igul is not there in the Rambam and the sources of the Rambam. Umedivrei Rashi, and also from the words of Rashi, because of that Rashi writes, as we learned before in source number 17, what does Rashi write? Yoitzim be'alachs, and they go out in a diagonal. Nire, it seems, the loy hayu be'igul. Even according to Rashi, it seems like that they weren't round. Says the Mishnah Chassidim, Aval Rambam bechiburoi, but the Rambam in his Sefer, which we quoted in number 18, lo yizkir tevas alachsen, he does not say the word diagonal, elo kosav v'nimshachim ve'oilim. He just says they extend. If the Rambam would have wanted to say that they extend straight, the Rambam would have used the word be'alachsen, diagonal. Since the Rambam just says that they extend, so could be that it means also round. And he continues, because of Bal Chochmas HaMishkan, there's another great sage who was Rabbi Yosef Richetti, also a proud Italian, that he wrote a Sefer Chochmas HaMishkan about the Beis HaMikdash. And he also writes, says the Mishnah Chassidim, that nira mizeh, that it seems shehayu oilim hakanim kimat beigul, that they went a little round. Vehachi mistavra, and it's so it seems that behachim doimim legalgale Chanukiyah. We said before that why are the 7 branches? Because they represent the 7 galgalim, the 7 spheres, right? A sphere is round. So shekenegdam hem shiva neres, keneged, that they represent the 7 spheres, so therefore they were round. So says the Rebbe that after asking Mechila from the Mishnahs, Chassidim, etc., number one, to say that they were round because the 7 spheres were round, but then only 6 of those branches are round. The 7th one, the one who's in the center, is going to be straight. See, if you tell me that it's a number 7 that represents it, it's one thing. But if you tell me that the shape represents it, the middle one for sure doesn't represent that. So obviously it's a little bit hard to say that the 7 branches represent the eagle, and that is why they are round. And the second thing is, the Mishnah Chassidim says clearly, "Ve'hachim mistavra." It seems that this is what it is, because the Rambam doesn't use the word diagonal, which means that had the Mishnah Chassidim seen the manuscript of the Rambam, of the Pirush HaMishnayos, where the Rambam actually made a picture, and when the son of Rabbi Avram ben Rambam testifies that this is 100% correct, there is no question that the Mishnah Chassidim would have definitely agreed with the picture of the Rambam and would have said that they are straight. So, not only that, there is a very interesting point here. When we look, the contrast here, according to the Rambam, it was straight. Where do we find that they were round? By Titus. Who Titus is the opposite of Judaism. He's the one that destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. Let's see what Rabbi Kapach says about the Menorah of Titus. Whether there's a possibility, maybe they were round. Look at number 21. What does Rav Kapach say in the Pirush HaMishnayos? Hadavar hashave b'chol kisvei hayad. One thing which is a common denominator between all the manuscripts of the Rambam, shesheishes hakonim yotzim min hakone ha'imtzoi, that the 6 branches come out from the middle one, ve'oilim bekav yosher ad legoiv ha'menorah, and they come out straight until the top of the menorah. Ve'ein bohem shum kashtiyas klal, they have absolutely no bow, there's no turn in them. And listen to these words of Rav Kapach. It's not like the picture which is so spread, so publicized. Titus. Where did they take it from? To the Arch of Titus. And it was already proved that he is forged. That is not the truth. Why? And he gives one example. The Gemara says clearly that the Menorah had 3 feet. And this is what the Rambam also writes here in Pirush HaMishnayos and in the big Rambam, in Yad HaChazaka. He says that there were 3 feet. And in the picture from Shar Titus, there's a big foundation, there's no feet. And many other things in the Menorah of Titus, which is a total forgery. There is not the place where to discuss that. So therefore, there's no question that there's a contrast here. We have a Rambam, we have Rashi, which make it very clear that the branches are straight. We have a Titus, that he made it round, and it's clear that that is not the real Menorah because there are a lot of mistakes in it. So comes the Rebbe and says even more. Titus wasn't just a guy who's a sculptor or a painter. Titus was the one that destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. And he made this arch. In the arch, there are 2 words. Judea Kafta. Besides for the whole picture over there of the Jews carrying the Menorah, the words Judea Kafta, which means the Jew has been captured. And they used to force the Jews to walk under it, to degrade them. This is what Titus represents. So now we have a choice to make a Menorah the way that Rambam and Rashi say it, or the way Titus does it. It should be the utmost outcry. And let's look how the Rebbe puts it. Look in number 22. This is from the Likutei Sichos of Yom Pashat, page 170. Says the Rebbe, Kum tuis, as metzayer sein diknei ha-menorah v'chatzei keshes, that when you make a menorah which is round, the way they are depicted on the Arch of Tito, has to evoke an outcry. Besides, for the most important point, that this is opposite of what the Rambam and Rashi write. Euch, weil das gibt a gewissen Heskem chas v'shalom, Rachmana litzlan, because it seems like they were giving sort of an agreement to them tzir of the Shar Titus, for the picture on Shar Titus. When someone makes it round, that's what it looks like. Was ist gemacht geworden? Why did he make it? Zu metzayer sein Iden und sein niedrig machen. It was made to pain the Jews, to degrade them. Tumura zeh, instead of was a tzir von der Menorah darf der Monnen me'orer sein Iden. What is a Menorah supposed to remind the Jew? As ein Tafkid is zu sein le'oir goyim. What is a Jew? What is the concept of the Menorah? That it's a light unto the nations. As we said before in the earlier sources, right in the beginning, that Eidus hu lechol boy olam shashchina shayre b'Yisrael. The whole concept of the Menorah is to show that the Shechina, that God is by the Jews. Ver die Zuras ha-Menorah gemacht be'efen kozeh. So how do some do the Menorah? How? Was der Mond dem heipich mamish wie Rome hat menatzeach gewen Rachman litzlan? We're going to make the Menorah that shows how Rome are the ones who are the winners. Says the Rebbe, chas v'sholem. So as long as we didn't know, we didn't know. But now that we have it very clear, that the Rambam and Rashi say that it has to be with straight, so there is no question that that is the correct thing to do. Therefore finishes off the Rebbe, source number 23, in note number 44, Val Pizeh, and according to this, Makom Leimar, it is proper to say, Shegam Chanukiyah is li Chanukah. That also the Chanukiyahs, which are made for Chanukah, kedai lasis kenehen balachsen. Their branches should be straight. If you have a Menorah which is a plate with little cups, fine. But if it has branches, it should not be round, it should be straight. Because this is how the Rambam and Rashi, this is how they explain it. And therefore, just to make a completion, that when we do it, when it's round, then it represents Titus. When we make it straight, we represent Rashi and the Rambam. So of course, it's not even a choice. There is no question about that. Any questions? Excellent question. So why is it that until now, nobody knew about this for generations and generations? That's not such a big question, because everything has its time. As we mentioned before, that now we're in the time of now is the time when we are going to judge Esav. What does it mean, judge Esav? To clarify. There are many things that throughout history, unfortunately, were not done correctly, and slowly but surely we are finding out the correct version. Before Mashiach comes, we have to know what the Menorah looks like, because we're going to be seeing the Beis HaMikdash very soon. And could you imagine if all of a sudden a Menorah is going to come out like this from the Beis HaMikdash? And we were always used to the concept that the Menorah is round. So therefore, it says that everything is going to be cleared up before Mashiach comes. And that is why you can see in these pictures over here on the curriculum at the end, and hopefully we'll be able to do some technical things here, maybe even have some footage of this beautiful event that we had, where you can see, first of all, how we were dancing there with a regular Menorah against the Menorah of Titus. But then we made a Menorah, and you can see it in the pictures, which is in the shape of the European Union, which is a circle with the stars. And we made straight branches coming out of it. And then the photographer took a picture how you can see this Menorah and the Menorah of Titus in the middle. So showing how the Menorah, which is straight, actually captures the Menorah of Titus and transforms it to the correct one, because now we're in the time of transformation, because we are coming to the end of Golus, the beginning of the Geulah. And therefore, since we have learnt another beautiful halacha of the Beis HaMikdash, we are certain that the Rebbe is going to give us the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, take it from Yad Mamish, and we're going to see the Menorah, how it's going to be lit in the Beis HaMikdash, and we're finally, the whole world is going to see that the Oira comes from the Beis HaMikdash to the whole world, and V'hoisol Hashem Amlucha, Tekef Umiyad Mamish. Have a happy Chanukah.
Eine von den Sachen, was ist der Semmel, which is the symbol von Golus, ist die Menorah hat da, weil das ist die Menorah, was der Rebbe ist Masber in Likutei Sichos Chelik Kaf Aleph, Die Menorah da ist, was Titus hat gewollt beweisen, der Ingen von Korben, Beis Hamikdash. Aber die richtige Menorah, das ist nicht die richtige Menorah. Er hat gemeint, als er hat dazu genommen, die Menorah von Beis Hamikdash. Aber wie der Rebbe ist maßlich, das ist nicht die richtige Menorah. Das ist eine von den Menorahs, was sie gewähnt in Jerusalem. Und die richtige Menorah, der Tate wird jetzt beweisen, wie das sie ist bei Alachsen. Und hat es sicher da auf die Lettel, als die Menorah ist nicht bei Chatzi Igul, nur die Menorah ist bei Alachsen.
Kinderlach, Kinderlach. Die Emesse Menorah hat er sei. Und die Menorah, was mir hängt, das ist ein Schecker Gomut. Das ist ein Schecker Gomut. Das ist nur, weil es als Mann von Churben und mit verdreht alle mit dem Kopf und mit geharget Millionen Nieden kann man nehmen als Schecker und sagen, das ist die Menorah. Das ist die Emesse Menorah. Die Emesse Menorah käme an die Kommunierung. So hat aber genommen 100er Jahren und mit geharget Millionen Iden. Und jetzt stehen wir da und wir halten die Menorah, die Emesse, wie es tut sich die Menorah, weil das ist die Atazee, auf der Menorah, der Rebbe gebencht schlicht. Und jetzt stehen wir offen und keiner scheppert uns nicht, was der Sofen Gold Achrin.
Das ist... Wow, wow.
Di quando sei pronta?
Viene? Wow. Wow. He's getting that Menorah in the whole of this Menorah.
Di